Let me start by saying something that isn't in the spirit of these debates, which is that I actually think there's quite a large middle ground on this question. And I don't mind a good scrap, as anyone of you who knows my work will know. But I don't think that it's simply a question of saying all aid is terrible or all aid is good. I think, in the way that I want to invite you to vote for this resolution, it's that on balance, aid has done more harm. The resolution is well phrased than good. It's not that it's a great, vast, right-wing conspiracy or left-wing conspiracy, I suppose, in the instance. It's not that some aid programs don't work and have not been shown to work. The problem, I think, and the reason that I, again, invite you to at least think hard about supporting this resolution, is that the whole discussion of AIDS makes a kind of moral and historical end run around the problem of politics. It becomes, if you like, a kind of technical question. There are these suffering people, as Mr. Rosenkranz and Mr. Lehrer both described to you. We do or we don't have the modalities to efficiently succor them. That is the aid narrative, if you will. And that is a narrative that, largely speaking, deprives the recipients of aid of their agency, infantilizes them, and also makes of aid a supra-political, extra-political, moral question. It becomes a moral imperative. Therefore, we can't talk about politics. We can't talk about whether the UN system actually works, which, in my view, palpably it doesn't. That's perhaps another debate about which I would be more categorical, oddly enough. It doesn't, but most of all, doesn't reckon with the fundamental question that people are not saved from outside. People rescue themselves, fundamentally. They can be helped. There's nothing wrong with aid at the margins. If aid were less ambitious, if aid had less of a kind of globalizing, dare I say it, totalitarian program, I would support it as I support emergency relief, which, at least in my understanding of emergency relief, is not long-term development, but rapid entry and departure in major, usually war or refugee movement emergencies. The words are unsatisfactory, but that's more or less what it is. I've worked in that field, and I do not think there's anything wrong with it. On the contrary, I think if done properly, if it doesn't become a stalking horse for some ideological position, say liberal human rights, which I would insist is not simply the way the world is at its most just, but an ideological position, that if it does what it's meant to do, which is, as I wrote in a book on this subject, offer a bed for a night, but not hope to save people, to transform society, etc., then I think that the value of that aid, assuming it's honestly given and competently given, is indisputable. What is not indisputable by any stretch of the imagination is the idea that foreign institutions and governments and intergovernmental organizations, notably the European Union and the UN system, know how to fix other people's difficulties. The problem with aid, in short, is that it sets itself up as the kind of know-all and end-all. Now, of course, aid people will tell you this is not the case anymore. That was true in the bad old days of Lou Preston and the World Bank. It was true when all aid workers in Africa were white. It was true when, if you like, the aid system was a kind of direct follow-on both of religious proselytizing, the missionary impulse, and colonialism. But the truth of the matter is that old Texas adage, the man with the gold makes the rules, becomes that definition of the golden rule, is as true today as it was when the French flag waved over Conakry. And I don't think it can ever be different. So that what you have with aid, by definition, is outsiders telling people in a place how to do it, and telling them if they don't behave satisfactorily, that is the best practices that you now see in humanitarianism. If you're not democratic, if you are not transparent, if you don't do this, that, and the other thing, then we will withdraw the aid. Well, if ever there was an example of unequal power relations, I would submit to you that that's it, which is why, precisely, in depriving people of their agency, aid does more harm than good, does some good. I insist on the point that there is middle ground here, but it does more harm than good. Moreover, it does seem to me that the emphasis on aid is misplaced, and that if you want to talk about what can be done in a place like Africa, but not only in Africa, I mean, after all, there are other parts of the world that are unfavored in this moment in history for many of the same reasons. You might talk about fair trade a lot more than talking about development aid. Thank you very much.